Hello, beautiful people. So today I wanted to chat about work, 9 to 5 life. You know, what do you do? How do you make it work? I think for a lot of us, it's very hard to fathom working for another 30, 40 years, right? 50 years in some cases. And I just don't think it's meant for everyone, right? And I guess part of what I want to highlight, and I'll share some of my own internal workings and ways of processing, that it feels like almost like there's shame and guilt around not wanting to work, especially if you've gotten to a place where you have a decent job, right? And you make decent money. A lot of people will work their entire lives for that. And then you get someone who has worked to get themselves there and they're ungrateful. So I do want to highlight some of these things. I don't think they really have that much meaning, but I think they have a way of connecting with other people. And I think these stories are helpful because sometimes we can feel very isolated and alone in the way that we're processing things. And we sometimes feel like we're the only ones, right? If you work in an environment and it's just really not working for you and you feel isolated, everyone else seems like they're having fun. They would do this job for years. And you're just like, you almost question yourself, right? You question, is it me? And it probably is you, but maybe not in a negative way. Maybe it's a positive that you're not meshing and molding the way you should. So I'm going to share a few things. I'm also going to share something that might be a little controversial, but it actually helped me develop a better grounding, and I garner respect at work from that as well. So maybe I'll start off with that, a story. But where it has led me is just not where I want to be. And I think the story is relatable. And I'm also going to share what I'm going to do about it, how I'm going to be authentic and open here, sharing my process. I'm also going to take a big leap on something. It's not big in the scheme of things if I look at it objectively outside of myself, but from how I've been and how I interact, it is big. So stick around for that. I think you might. If you're new here, I talk about a lot of things, life, the way we process. You can check out the bio. But ultimately, I would say, speaking for myself, that I'm just a down to earth human that's trying to navigate life. I think a lot. I spend a lot of time alone. I've had a lot of life situations that have made me become self-reliant and self-sufficient, and I think that's a lot of us in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to find equilibrium so I can have the most enjoyable existence possible. And I think through this channel, through efforts of taking action where I know I need to take action, I think it's going to be the pathway there. So stick around, hit subscribe if that resonates with you, and I'll go ahead and hop to it. So starting off, I want to share a story that changed the trajectory of how I interact at work. And looking back now, this happened in 2017. Looking back now, it actually put me on a new path in terms of work and how I show up. That changed probably everything for me. So we go back to 2017. I was making just a little bit above minimum wage. I got this job at this startup that was pretty cool. I hadn't yet worked at a startup. I had just finished my undergrad, and it had taken me a bit to finish that. Prior to this job, I was doing solar sales. So I was doing commission-only solar sales where you're walking around, you're knocking on doors, you're trying to source leads, and then you're selling. And at this time, I was living in California near LA, and I was driving all over, especially in LA traffic. It was like 16-hour days. It was hard work. So I only did that for 4 months. I broke even for the most part, but was burning money in gas, car stuff, car repairs, food, rent, all of it. And I hit a big day where I sold two packages, and I made 5K in one day. And I was like, this feels like I'm betting, and I'm out here. Like I'm leaving when I won. And then I looked for another job. I had moved down to San Diego at that point because I had a partner that was going to UCSD and wanted to be near. So I found this job at the startup. It was really cool. It was very exciting. I remember clicking a lot with my boss at the time. We were talking about gaming stuff, and she was such a nerd, and I was too, and we were just vibing, right? So I started the job. I do, you do your training. It was a startup that worked with real estate agents, and We would help them integrate their lead sources. You can imagine like Zillow, Redfin, all of these places where you get leads, which are people looking for houses. We would work with their leads. We had two sections, well, multiple sections of the business, but one was they would manage those leads, nurture those leads, and book appointments. So that was the other team. And then the team I was part of was managing all of these real estate agent accounts. You can call it customer success. You can call it account management, essentially. So week one, I didn't have much work experience at this time working in this fashion, like with account management. So my boss at the time, during training, it was an open training. It was a training where you might start in 2 weeks, you might start in 2 months. It just depended on when you were ready. So I didn't like the style, and I hope I share this story in a way that like it builds some sort of suspense, and then you get to experience it. But I'm going to try my best. I actually really like doing these videos because I think I'm getting better at telling stories and sharing something. So I start training, right? And in my head, I don't like the loosey-goosey, you're going to be ready in 2 weeks, you might be ready in 2 months. I gave myself a 2-week deadline, right? So week one, I'm doing training, and I get on my first live call on the Friday of the first week. And my manager is on the other line, right? She's listening to the call that I'm having with this customer. And before that, actually, let me go back one step. So before that, we're doing training, and she's doing this thing. This is actually where it happened. So it didn't happen on that live call, but before the call, she would jump in, and when I don't know if you've ever had a manager like this where you're trying to get it down, but you need reps. You need reps. You know that you're fumbling when you're talking or doing this or that, right? Like you don't need someone to point it out. You're just trying to get through it. So she had this tendency to stop at every hiccup, right? It's like, no, your tone could have been better there. No. And I got fed up. I was like, listen. I raised my voice and I was like, listen, let me get through it, okay? And that was pretty much it. I think that's pretty much all I said. And in my head, this had been going on for a day or two. I remember being frustrated, and coming from like a solar sales commission only job, I was like, I don't give a fuck what happens here. Like, I'm not taking shit from anyone, right? So that was pretty much it. I was like, I don't care if I lose this job. Like, I don't give a fuck what happens. I'm sticking up for myself. So I let her have it, right? And she's like, she calls me to the office, right? And she talks to me, and she's like, you better never say that again. I'm like, listen, I don't learn like that, okay? Oh, and then the other guy was there, so her manager was there as well, and he was like mediating, and it was the most magical moment because so maybe I'm not the best at storytelling. Let me keep going, and then I'll say what the outcome was. So I'm like, I can't learn like that. Like, you're breathing down my neck. Like, I need to get my words out. I need to reflect on having done it and not this choppy stuff. And it was funny because you could tell she was a new manager, which is fine. Like, at the time, I didn't have any like managing experience either. So I wouldn't know. And people got to tell you these things, right? But sometimes people are scared, especially if you have like a big personality like she did. She's fantastic. So anyways, this moment happens, right? And she tells me that. And then her boss, who's also someone who hired me, was talking about how these are great learning moments. And he was pretty much laying out how this was great for her and great for me. It was almost like the vibe I got was finally someone did it, because it felt like it was a breaking point kind of thing. Like someone had to say it, right? So not only did I grow in that moment, did she have more respect for me. I became like the head of the team kind of thing. She had respect for me. I had respect that they listened. I was like, okay, good. Like, that's good. Like, and I admitted, like, I could have been more tactful. I didn't have to raise my voice, but honestly, I had no idea. I just got the words out, and like doing that was like, oh, I was scared, But it was such a great moment. She became a better manager. She really took that feedback, she was great. We made the process better. We worked on it. It was such a defining moment for me. Because I realize, like, these moments, we get so scared and we get so timid of speaking up what our truth is, right? But it might be the very things that set us free. It might be the very things that have others respect us. So move forward to today. That's what I do at work. I speak my mind. I speak directly. I don't care so much if I offend other people, in the sense that if I do offend someone, I hope they are mature enough to let me know, right? And communicate so we can work on it together. But it's more about me. It's more about what experience do I want to have. I don't want to feel like I don't have any power. And I don't want to feel like I don't have any control or influence, right? And these very things, I believe this was the catalyst for me professionally to seek more, to make me an inherent leader. Because leadership isn't about title. It's really about how are you going to navigate? How are you going to make this experience better for what you've seen as problems, for new people, for the people there, for the customers, for everyone. It's being a leader is like, anyone can be it, and you can be it today. But if you can't show up for you, you can't show up for your customers in an impactful way. You can't show up for your colleagues, etc. So it starts with you. As such are many things in life. It starts with you deciding. Really, that might be the most impactful thing here. If you feel like you're just coming up against the wall, like no one cares, push that belief. Push that belief. Talk back. Especially if you're adding value and you're not like slacking, right? And you're actually just doing your job, and you want to do a good job, you just feel like people are walking over you. Maybe push it. I say maybe because you know your situation better than I, you'll know. But this was definitely a moment where I didn't care. I didn't care how it turned out. I wasn't actually thinking about how the other person would receive it. I was more concerned about my experience. I wanted to make my experience better, even if that means that I wasn't there, right? So move on to now. Now I work at jobs, and this is a problem when you're competent and you can say, I'm being full of myself or conceited. I see it as being just objective. Like, you lay it out on a piece of paper, and this is the scenario that I've gotten myself into, which keeps being a pattern. So I get in this pattern that now I've set this tone is like, I am competent, right? I can do these things. I can lead. I can look at projects holistically. I can create processes and systems, all these things, right? And I think it stems from how you present yourself, right? And then you're given the task and then you do it. And then it's like, okay, you did great. Here's more, here's more, here's more, here's more. And increasingly, it's become this thing where I keep getting more and more responsibility that I don't want. Like, in my last role, I was happy doing that because they compensated me, and they kept compensating me more per this. But my current situation, not so much. And two, I didn't look for that kind of thing in this role. But what I'm getting at is I keep getting to this pattern in jobs that have become so mind-numbing and dull. And part of it's my fault. Part of it's my fault because I choose to work with really small businesses that are on this cusp of, are we going to grow or are we going to fail? And I like that. I like the chaos there. I like the chaos. I love knowing that it's unpredictable. I just thrive in that environment. I think it was from my upbringing. It was very, very chaotic. So now it's like, I kind of seek that, I kind of seek that in work. I probably seek it in a lot of ways, actually. But when that's not there and we're just stagnant and there's no growth, or I'm the only one, or I feel like I'm the only one pushing, like, it just demotivates me. And the problem with that is I get into the cycle with every job. Like, a year in, I get so depressed and mind-numbing. It's not like there's not work. There's work to do for sure, but it's not compelling. It's not exciting. And I think where I take ownership here is knowing that I've known this for a long time, that this won't suffice. This won't work for me. And I think it's gotten to a place, luckily, that in my last role, I was devastated at the time. I worked for this startup. It was really cool. I worked there actually 2 years. The last two startups, actually 2 years. But this last one, 2 years. And my whole mindset, knowing this beast, knowing the way I operate, was I'm going to stay in this thing until the wheels fall off. And the wheels fell off. So AI came out and pretty much squashed our value proposition, which is just, the value of why would people buy your stuff? And it's like, well, they wouldn't now that they could run it in a script, in AI, in OpenAI, right? And get something similar running within 24 to 48 hours. Like, you wouldn't. So the company failed. And I realized, I think I knew it before, but I didn't know how devastating. I didn't know until the loss. So that company shuts down. I get laid off, and I had tied up a lot of my identity into work. So much, in fact, I only have a few minutes left here, but so much, in fact, that it was devastating. It felt like someone died. It felt like I died when I lost that job. And it wasn't even that's the thing. Like, it wasn't even my fault, right? It's like the company failed. So it wasn't like this guilt thing. It was like I had put too much of my self worth into work, and now I didn't have that identity. Things happened prior to that were shaky in my life. And this was like the nail in the coffin kind of thing. It just completely derailed me. But looking back, it's a blessing because moving into this new job, I was like, I don't care. I'm not doing it for validation. I don't give a shit. Like, I actually just want to work my time and be done. I don't want leftover stuff. Like, I accepted in the other job where I'd work any hour because we had national clients. I was like, no, this is it. This is all you get. And then it's funny, this attitude I think has made this job I'm in currently want me more, want me to lead more, want me to do more, because it's like it's so much more stuff, like high level and important. I don't want to do it though. I don't want to do it. It's the same shit. It's like I'm building someone else's dream. I feel like I'm wasting my time. So this was a realization. I think I skipped over it. The realization is I don't think I'm ever going to be satisfied working for someone else, building someone else's dreams. I have always felt in my bones that this is plan B. And I feel like I've been living the plan B the plan B portion of my life for the last 10 years. And I'm sick of it. And this is where it ends. This is where it has to end. Because I can't keep doing it, right? So the problem is it gets so mind numbing, and maybe you can relate. It gets so mind numbing, you're just like, you get depressed. And when you get depressed, it just like, it's a spiral. It's like you're depressed, your life doesn't matter, you're a cog in the machine, nothing matters, you're not growing, so it doesn't even matter. None of it matters. At least if I'm doing my own thing, which is the segue here. The segue here is this is it. This is where it has to stop. I have to start doing my own thing, my own business. I've been here so many times. I've been here so many times. And I've been scared. I've been fearful. I've not had any support or backup or savings or anything like that. So those are excuses, but they're real, right? If you don't have that support, like, you can't really like fail that much, you know? And that was my fear of failing. And I always pretty much failed, but I wouldn't let myself. So I just created an LLC for this new thing, which I'm going to share openly here. I think going through this and sharing it with you, I was hesitant. I was like, maybe I won't share it. Because previously I would have this habit of like talking about things and not doing them. But I actually think it could be beneficial here to share, whether it works, whether we learn from it, whatever it is. I think that's going to be really impactful for you, whoever's watching, and then for me to document it, maybe even keep me accountable. But it's just like this habit of just kind of starting. So I just started my 5th LLC. 5th in 12 years. That's insane. And I would get to that point, and then I would not do anything. I'd be so scared. But fear is an illusion. I just did a video about this. All of these things are illusions. And when this is what I'm doing. I'm breaking through these to show myself that it's not real. Not real. When I look at my skills objectively, when I look at what offer I'm going to do, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. The only thing I have is this weird, like, fear thing happening. And the only way to address it is to take action. That's the only way. So that's what I'm going to do. So if you'd like to follow along on that journey, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I'm not sure. I might do just weekly recaps on that. I don't know how much is going to change day over day, but we're going to do that because that is the next step here. And we got to find these things that, you know, I'll leave on one last note here. Your depression, which is something I think I've clicked in, your depression might just be that you're not living up to your potential. That you're playing too small. Think about that. Look back. Look back on your life, look at these situations, these things, and think about that. And you might have reasons, like I shared reasons. That's okay. But if that's true for you, the depression is that for you, that it's a signal that you're playing too small, listen to that, harness that, be real with yourself. Okay, thank you so much for watching. This one was a little bit longer, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.